The rent was cheaper than it should have been. Not cheap enough to feel suspicious, just low enough to make me feel lucky. I remember standing in the doorway during the viewing, keys already warm in the landlord's hand, thinking this was the first thing in a long time that hadn't required a compromise. The house was narrow and tall, squeezed between newer builds like it had refused to move when the street modernized around it. Its windows were smaller than the others, older, watching inward rather than out. The listing was sparse. A few exterior photos, no interior shots, no mention of renovations, no details about the layout. When I asked the landlord why the price was low, he didn't hesitate. The previous owner passed away, he said. The house has been empty a while. That didn't bother me. People die in houses all the time. I needed somewhere quiet, somewhere I could disappear into for a bit, somewhere that didn't ask anything of me. So I took it. The first few weeks were uneventful, almost comforting. The house didn't feel abandoned, felt paused, like someone had stepped outside briefly and expected to return. The floors were clean but worn smooth, like they'd been walked the same way for years. The walls were bare, but there were faint marks where pictures had once hung and been removed carefully, not torn away. Every room felt intentional, not staged, not empty, finished. I unpacked slowly, not because I was tired, but because I kept stopping without realizing why. I'd pick something up, carry it into a room, and then stand there longer than necessary, unsure where it should go. Not where I wanted it, where it belonged. Sometimes I'd put something down, only to move it again minutes later because the first placement felt wrong. Not inconvenient, wrong. At night, the house made the usual sounds. Old wood expanding, pipes ticking, the soft creaks you stop noticing once they blend into the background. I slept deeply. That should have worried me. Weeks passed before anything broke the routine. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found the cupboards open. Not wide, not carelessly, just enough. Each door cracked at the same angle, like they'd been opened to check something and forgotten. I closed them and laughed quietly to myself. I was distracted, settling in. New habits take time. A few days later, different cupboards were open. Same distance, same restraint. I checked the hinges. They were fine. That was when I noticed something else. The house never felt startled. Nothing ever slammed. Nothing ever rushed. Everything happened the way you move when someone else is sleeping. The sounds came slowly after that. A single creak on the stairs late at night, one step, then silence. The faint click of a door settling, except it happened repeatedly, always around the same time. The soft scrape of something being adjusted, never dragged. Once I heard the front door, not slamming, opening, slowly. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening for footsteps that never came. When I checked in the morning, the door was closed, locked. I told myself it had been a dream, but the dreams started changing. I wasn't being chased. I wasn't trapped. I was busy. Dreams where I walked the house slowly, checking doors, straightening objects, correcting small mistakes. Dreams where I felt anxious if something was out of place, relieved once it was fixed. I woke up with the lingering feeling that I'd forgotten something important. The house had a rhythm. I didn't realize that at first, but once I started paying attention, it was obvious. The noises followed a route: upstairs bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room, always in that order. Not curious, not random, routine, like someone following a checklist they'd memorized years ago. I mentioned the noises casually to the landlord during a phone call about a loose handle. There was a pause. "Old houses," he said. "They have habits." I asked about the previous owner. "She lived there a long time," he said, "kept to herself." "How did she die?" I asked. Another pause. Quietly, then he changed the subject. "One night I woke to sounds in the kitchen. Not searching, not frantic, organizing. Drawers opening and closing carefully. Plates touching gently, as if someone was counting them. The sound of alignment, objects being returned to exact places. I didn't move. When it stopped, the house felt settled, balanced. In the morning, the kitchen looked better. Not different, corrected. Chairs pushed in evenly. A mug I always left by the sink back in the cupboard. A towel folded the way I never bothered to. It didn't feel threatening. It felt disapproving. After that, I became more careful. Not consciously, instinctively. The house was quieter when I was. I looked into the previous owner. Her name barely existed online. No obituary, no memorial, no cause of death listed. Just a notice. She'd lived in the house for over 40 years. No family, no visitors, no complaints. The longer I stayed, the more it felt like the house wasn't reacting to me at all. It was continuing. Doors began closing themselves at night, slowly, carefully, always until the latch clicked. Lights were left on in rooms I hadn't entered. The bathroom mirror was wiped clean. The spare room, a room I never used, always felt recently occupied, like it was waiting. The house wasn't trying to scare me. It was maintaining itself. The last night, I woke knowing someone was outside my bedroom door. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear breathing. I just knew. The floorboards settled under weight. Someone had stopped there, waiting. Then the pressure lifted and moved away. Not toward the stairs, toward the spare room. In the morning, every door in the house was closed, latched. Every cupboard, every wardrobe, every room sealed carefully like someone finishing a task. The front door was locked. From the inside, that's when I left. 3 nights later, I woke in my new place at exactly 3:12 a.m., wide awake. My bedroom door was closed. I never close it. I reached for the handle. It wouldn't move. Something on the other side was holding it, not forcing it, just keeping it closed. That's when it made sense. The house hadn't been haunted. It had been vacated. The noises weren't disturbances. They were instructions. The doors, the cupboards, the careful corrections. It wasn't repeating what the woman had done. It was making sure someone else learned. The door opened by itself. Slowly. The hallway was empty, but the air felt compressed, measured. I didn't sleep. I moved again, then again. It didn't matter. Doors still closed. Mistakes were still corrected. Lights were left on where they shouldn't be. Always careful. Always quiet. Last night, I woke standing in my hallway. I don't remember getting out of bed. I don't remember opening the door, but I was holding the handle, closing it, gently, the way you do when you don't want to wake the person inside. I don't think the woman who lived in that house died there. I think she left, and whatever was meant to stay behind didn't want to be alone.